When humanity walked out on the Galactic Council after the brutal destruction of their colony, the galaxy trembled, because for the first time in centuries, the one species everyone underestimated had stopped playing by the rules. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from and make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. The massive Galactic Council space station hung suspended against the backdrop of swirling, galactic arms, its gleaming hull reflecting the light of distant stars. Ships of various designs and origins approached the docking bays, carrying representatives from hundreds of species across the known universe. The station's central core glowed with artificial light, illuminating intricate architectural details that blended countless different species' aesthetics into a harmonious whole. Inside the vast circular chamber of the Galactic Council, rising, tiers of seats arranged around a central speaking platform held nearly 200 different species of alien representatives. Each delegation was clearly marked with holographic symbols, and the chamber buzzed with the sounds of translator devices and hushed conversations in countless languages. The air itself seemed charged with tension as Grand Arbiter Xylox, a tall, willowy being with iridescent skin, addressed the assembly from the central platform. Honored representatives of the Galactic Council, Xylox's melodious voice carried throughout the chamber. We convene today for a matter of utmost urgency. The human delegation has requested this emergency session following the Proxima incident. As per our charter, we have granted their request. The chamber darkened slightly as a delegation of humans entered through the main doorway. Unlike the more exotic aliens, they appeared oddly simple in form, bipedal, clothed in formal blue uniforms, with silver trim. Their leader, Ambassador Kira Chen, walked with straight-back determination. Whispers rippled through the assembly as the humans approached the central platform. They seemed so calm for creatures whose colony was just destroyed, muttered Counselor Trelvik, a squat, tentacled being, to a neighbor. Humans are unpredictable. Watch carefully, replied Counselor Grix, a reptilian with vibrating vocal sacs. Ambassador Chen reached the central platform. She was flanked by General Marcus Davis, a stern-faced military officer, and Dr. Elena Rodriguez, a scientist holding a data tablet. Her face betrayed no emotion as she addressed the council, her voice clear and measured. Esteemed members of the council, I thank you for convening on such short notice. 3 standard days ago, our settlement on Proxima Centauri IV was attacked without provocation or warning. 7,000 colonists, men, women, and children lost their lives. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Several delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats, while others exchanged meaningful glances. The chamber grew silent as Chen continued, her voice taking on a colder edge. We have evidence that the attack was carried out by forces belonging to the Kraxan Imperium. The delegation of Kraxans, heavily armored beings with exoskeletons and compound eyes, rose in unison. Their leader, Envoy Grakis, stepped forward, mandibles clicking with agitation. His mechanically translated voice echoed through the chamber. This is absurd. The Imperium categorically denies these baseless accusations. Humans have always been quick to assign blame when faced with their own failings in colonial security. General Davis stepped forward, his voice tight with controlled anger. This was no security failure. He activated a holographic projector, and images appeared in the center of the chamber. Orbital footage showing warships bombarding a settlement. The distinctive design of the vessels was clearly Kraxan, their blade-like profiles unmistakable even through the smoke and debris of orbital bombardment. Dr. Rodriguez spoke next, her scientific detachment a stark contrast to the grim footage playing before the council. We've verified the authenticity of this footage. Additionally, residual energy signatures match known Kraxan weapons technology. There is no doubt about the identity of the attackers. The chamber erupted in alarmed conversations. Grand Arbiter, Xylox raised all 4 arms for silence, the gesture eventually bringing order back to the proceedings. Envoy Grakis, these are serious allegations with substantial evidence. How does the Imperium respond? After consulting with advisors, Envoy Grakis responded, his translator conveying a tone of dismissal. Those ships were reported stolen from Our border fleets 2 cycles ago. If they were used in this regrettable attack, it was by rogue elements not under Imperial control. How convenient, Ambassador Chen replied, her voice growing cold. And yet our intelligence suggests the attack was coordinated from within your military command structure. The Proxima system contains resources your empire has coveted for decades. You dare accuse our glorious Imperium of such dishonorable actions? Gracchus's mandibles clicked rapidly. Perhaps if humans weren't so quick to spread throughout the galaxy like a virus claiming worlds near established territories, such misunderstandings wouldn't occur. Several council members gasped at the thinly veiled threat. Ambassador Chen stood perfectly still, her face a mask of control. The Grand Arbiter intervened quickly. This assembly will not tolerate threats, Envoy Gracchus. What is it the human delegation seeks from this council? Ambassador Chen's response was immediate and crisp. Justice, Arbiter. Recognition of this unprovoked atrocity. Sanctions against the Kraxan Imperium. And reparations for the families of those lost. Preposterous. We will not be extorted. Gracchus's translator barely kept up with his agitated clicking. The human delegation exchanged glances. General Davis whispered something to Ambassador Chen, who gave a barely perceptible nod before turning back to address the council. In that case, the human delegation has nothing further to discuss at this time. She turned to leave, surprising the entire assembly. Normally, such negotiations would continue for days or weeks. Ambassador Chen, Grand Arbiter Xylox, called. After her, surely there is room for diplomatic resolution. The council can form an investigative committee. Chen turned back, her expression unreadable. 7,000 lives, Arbiter. 7,000 souls who trusted in the protection of galactic law. We have presented irrefutable evidence, and the response has been denial and victim blaming. Earth has been patient. Earth has followed protocol. Earth has sat at this table for decades. She paused, gazing around the chamber at the representatives of countless worlds. Perhaps it's time we reconsider our approach. With that, the entire human delegation turned and walked out of the chamber, leaving stunned silence in their wake. The delegates looked at one another in confusion and growing concern. What did she mean by that? Asked Counselor Erevan, a bioluminescent, floating creature whose light patterns flickered nervously. Counselor Grix replied, his vocal sacs vibrating with tension. In my 3 centuries of studying human history, I've learned one crucial fact. When humans walk away from diplomatic tables, blood inevitably follows. 1 week after the dramatic council session, the war room of Kraxan Imperial Command bustled with activity. Holographic displays filled the chamber, showing the movements of ships throughout nearby systems. Supreme Commander Vrex, larger and more heavily armored than his subordinates, studied a tactical display with compound eyes that reflected the blue light of the projections. Supreme Commander, a junior officer, approached cautiously. Human, diplomatic channels have gone silent across all frequencies. Their ambassadors have been recalled from every world in the sector. Vrex's mandibles clicked in dismissal. Let them sulk. They are soft creatures who hide behind council protocols. Without the council's protection, they would not dare move against the Imperium. A sensor operator suddenly straightened at their station, their carapace rigid with attention. Commander, multiple anomalies detected at the edge of the Kraxan border systems. Explain, Vrex demanded, turning from the main display. Energy signatures consistent with large vessels dropping out of FTL, the operator reported. But there's something strange about the readings. They don't match known, human military configurations. The main display flickered to show dozens of new contacts appearing near Kraxan space. The ships were unlike typical human vessels, darker, more angular, with minimal identifying markings. They moved with perfect coordination, forming a blockade formation along the border. Send a communication to the lead vessel, Vrex ordered. Remind them they are approaching sovereign Kraxan territory. The communications officer worked quickly, mandibles clicking nervously. Transmitting now, Supreme Commander, no response. There was a pause. Wait, we're receiving a system-wide broadcast, audio only. Let us hear it, Vrex commanded, his posture straightening. A human voice, calm and measured, filled the command center. Attention Kraxan Imperium. This is Admiral Helena Sorensen of the Earth Special Deterrence Fleet. You have been found responsible for the unprovoked attack on Proxima Centauri IV. You have denied responsibility and refused diplomatic resolution. The officers looked at each other in confusion, some with mandibles clicking rapidly in agitation. Be advised, as of 600 Standard Time, humanity has activated the Prometheus Protocol. We are no longer bound by Galactic Council restrictions on military technology or engagement parameters. You have 6 hours to surrender those responsible for the Proxima attack and begin reparation proceedings. There will be no further communication until then. The transmission ended. A heavy silence filled the command center, broken only by the soft sounds of equipment and the nervous clicking of mandibles. Supreme Commander, what is this Prometheus Protocol? A junior officer finally asked. An empty threat. Vrex responded, his voice certain. Humans are known for their bluffs. An older officer, strategist Krell, stepped forward hesitantly. His carapace was scarred from ancient battles, giving him a gravitas that commanded attention despite his deferential posture. Supreme Commander, if I may, in my studies of human warfare they have many times referenced something called holding back. Their military technology has always seemed restrained. There are historical accounts suggesting they possess capabilities they voluntarily limit. Vrex's mandibles clicked dismissively. Absurd. We have full intelligence on human military capacity. They are technologically inferior to the Imperium in every respect. With respect, Commander, Krell persisted, there are inconsistencies in their technological development curve that have never been explained. Their advancement in some areas has been artificially slow compared to their breakthroughs in others. Enough. Vrex's voice carried throughout the command center. Send the Ninth Fleet to intercept these vessels. If the humans wish to commit suicide against our superior forces, we shall oblige them. In the cold void of space along the Kraxan border system, a formation of Kraxan warships moved into position. They were sleek, heavily armed vessels with distinctive blade-like profiles, their hulls gleaming with weapon ports while energy shields shimmered around them. They represented the pride of Kraxan military engineering, vessels that had conquered a dozen lesser species. Facing them, the human vessels held position. They were dark, almost predatory in appearance, with none of the usual markings or lights, typical of human ships. They waited motionless like predators before the strike. On the bridge of the Ninth Fleet command ship, Fleet Commander Zeth stood confidently as his ships formed up. The tactical displays showed his forces in perfect attack formation, outnumbering the human vessels 3-1. The humans have only 20 vessels, we outnumber them 3-1, Zeth noted with satisfaction. Weapon status? All systems charged and locked, reported the weapons officer. We have targeting solutions on all human vessels. Excellent. Fire on my mark. Zeth raised a limb, ready to give the command. Commander. The tactical officer's voice rose in alarm. The human vessels are changing. On the main view screen, the human ships began a transformation. Sections of their hulls shifted and reconfigured, revealing previously hidden weapon systems unlike anything the Kraxans had seen. The vessels seemed to grow more angular, more threatening with each passing moment. What trickery is this? Zeth's mandibles clicked rapidly. Fire! Fire now! The Kraxan ships unleashed a barrage of energy weapons and missiles. The beams streaked toward the human vessels, only to be intercepted by invisible barriers that flashed briefly blue upon impact, absorbing the energy completely without any sign of strain or degradation. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, without warning, half of the human ships simply vanished from their positions. Panic erupted on the bridge of the Kraxan command ship. They've disappeared from sensors, the sensor officer reported. Then, with increasing alarm, no. Wait. They're behind us. Impossible. Zeth's compound eyes widened. No species has functioning teleportation technology. The human vessels reappeared behind the cracks in formation. They fired, not with typical energy weapons, but with strange, focused beams that seemed to pass through the cracks and shields as if they weren't there. Where the beams touched, cracks and ships simply came apart, layers of hull peeling away with surgical precision. There were no explosions, no drama. Just the silent, methodical disassembly of warships that had been the pride of the Imperium for generations. Fleet Commander Zeth watched in horror as his fleet was systematically dismantled. What? What are they doing to our ships? They're using some kind of molecular disruption technology, the tactical officer reported, voice shaking. It's bypassing our shields completely. 7 ships lost already. 9, 12. Commander, we're receiving a transmission from the human flagship, the communications officer announced. A human face appeared on screen. Admiral Helena Sorensen, a middle-aged woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that held no visible emotion. She might have been discussing the weather rather than the systematic destruction of a fleet. Fleet Commander Zeth, she said calmly. Your vessels are being disabled, not destroyed. Your crews will survive in emergency pods. This is demonstration 1 of 3. The second will be more persuasive. You have 5 hours remaining to comply with our terms. The transmission cut. On the view screen, the systematic dismantling of the Kraxan fleet continued with terrifying efficiency. Zeth could only watch, as his mighty warships were reduced to component parts, floating uselessly in space. Hours after the devastating defeat of the Kraxan Ninth Fleet, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. The chamber was in chaos. Delegates shouted over one another as Grand Arbiter Xylox struggled to maintain order. Holographic displays showed the disabled Kraxan fleet, ships floating dead in space, neatly taken apart into segments as if by some cosmic surgeon's scalpel. Order. The Council will come to order. Xylox's amplified voice finally brought a semblance of control to the proceedings. The chamber gradually quieted, ripples of concerned murmuring replacing the previous shouting. All eyes turned to the human delegation that had returned not Ambassador Chen, but a different representative, Admiral William Constantine, an older man in a dark uniform with minimal decorations. His weathered face and steely eyes spoke of decades of military experience. Admiral Constantine, Grand Arbiter Xylox began, the Council demands an explanation for this unprecedented military action. You have violated 17 different provisions of the Galactic Peace Accord. The accord was already violated when 7,000 human civilians were murdered, Constantine replied calmly. As we informed the Kraxan Imperium, humanity has activated the Prometheus Protocol. Councillor Trelvik leaned forward, tentacles undulating with agitation. What is this protocol? We have no record of such a measure in human governance. Admiral Constantine paced slowly around the central platform, hands clasped behind his back. When humanity first made contact with alien civilizations 2 centuries ago, we were startled by what we found. Not by your differences, but by your similarities. Nearly every spacefaring species had followed the same technological development path, the same weapons, the same defenses, the same strategies. Murmurs spread through the chamber as Constantine continued. Our scientists theorized that there must be an optimal path for technological development, a tech tree, to use an archaic human gaming term. But humanity, isolated as we were, had explored different branches. Are you claiming humans possess technology unknown to the rest of the galaxy? Councillor Erevan's bioluminescent patterns flashed with what might have been alarm. When we joined the Galactic Council, we realized our unique developments could destabilize the careful balance of power, so we made a choice. We would conform. We would adapt our technology to match galactic standards. We would hold back. Constantine activated a holographic display showing the dismantling of the Kraxan ships. The footage played in slow motion, revealing the precision with which the vessels were taken apart. Systems disabled, crew sections carefully preserved. What you witnessed was molecular phasing technology, the ability to tune matter to pass through other matter by adjusting quantum frequencies. We developed it 300 years ago, then shelved it. Too dangerous, our leaders said. Constantine's voice was matter-of-fact, as though discussing an everyday technology rather than something that upended centuries of galactic military doctrine. Stunned silence filled the chamber. The implications were staggering. A species that had been holding back its true capabilities for centuries, integrating with galactic society while concealing its true technological level. If this is but one example, Counselor Grix's voice trembled. What else have you concealed? That's not relevant at this moment, Constantine replied. What matters is this. Humanity joined the galactic community in good faith. We played by the rules, we sat at the table, and our reward was the slaughter of innocents. He looked directly at the Kraxan delegation, now headed by a visibly shaken junior envoy, the senior leadership notably absent. The Prometheus protocol is simple. When diplomatic channels fail, when justice is denied, humanity reverts to its original technological path. The restrictions we placed upon ourselves are lifted. This is madness. Grand Arbiter Xylox's normally melodious voice cracked with strain. You cannot simply disregard centuries of galactic law. We've given the Kraxan Imperium a deadline to surrender those responsible and begin reparations. Constantine continued, unmoved. If they fail to comply, Demonstration 2 will commence. It will target their primary shipyards. The Kraxan Jr. envoy rose from his seat, mandibles clicking in panic. There are millions of civilians in those orbital facilities. Constantine's expression remained impassive, his voice cold. Then I suggest you convince your leaders to comply. Quickly. Meanwhile, in the opulent halls of the Kraxan Imperial Palace, Supreme Commander Vrex stood before the Kraxan Emperor, a massive version of the species encased in ceremonial battle armor, studded with precious metals and gems. The Emperor's compound eyes gleamed with fury as reports of the fleet's destruction played on nearby screens. You assured me the humans would be easily cowed, Vrex. The Emperor's voice resonated through the chamber. Yet now our fleet lies in ruins, and these primitives threaten our core worlds. The humans have deceived us all, Emperor, Vrex replied, head bowed in submission. They possess technology we never suspected. And you advise surrender? Surrender? The Emperor rose, from his ornate throne towering over his military commander. The Imperium has never capitulated to any force. Before Vrex could respond, a holographic communication appeared, the junior envoy from the council. Emperor! The envoy's voice was frantic. The humans have presented evidence to the council. They have tracking data showing the order for the Proxima attack came directly from Imperial High Command. The Emperor turned slowly to face Supreme Commander Vrex, compound eyes narrowing to slits. Is this true, Vrex? Did you authorize this attack without my knowledge? A long, tense silence filled the throne room, broken only by the soft hum of environmental systems. The Proxima system contains materials critical to our new weapons program, Vrex finally admitted. I deemed it necessary to secure them before the humans could establish stronger defenses. It was to be a quick operation with minimal casualties. The Emperor rose to his full height, towering over Vrex. His voice was soft, but carried throughout the chamber. You have doomed us all. Back in the Galactic Council chamber, a hush fell over the assembly as the main Kraxan delegation returned. Envoy Gracchus approached the central platform, his normally proud posture now subdued, his ornate armor lacking its usual luster. The Kraxan Imperium acknowledges responsibility for the attack on the human colony of Proxima Centauri 4. Gracchus announced, each word clearly painful. Those who ordered this action did so without imperial authorization. He looked directly at Admiral Constantine, mandibles moving slowly in what some species might recognize as resignation. Supreme Commander Vrex and his co-conspirators have been arrested and will be surrendered to Earth authorities for trial. The Imperium is prepared to offer reparations as prescribed by Council statutes. Admiral Constantine nodded once, then activated his communication device. Admiral Sorensen, stand down from Demonstration 2. The Kraxan Imperium has agreed to terms. He turned back to address the full council, his voice level. The human delegation is satisfied with this resolution. We will work with council mediators to establish appropriate reparations. Relief visibly washed over the assembly. Tendrils relaxed. Bioluminescent patterns steadied. Breathing apparatus quieted. But Admiral Constantine wasn't finished. However, the Galactic Council should understand something clearly. The Prometheus protocol remains active. Humanity has returned to the table for now. But we will never again be helpless in the face of aggression. We will never again watch innocents die while waiting for justice that never comes. Constantine looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of various delegates. His next words fell into the silence like stones into a still pond. The galaxy has grown comfortable with certain assumptions about what is and isn't possible, about what rules cannot be broken, about what technologies cannot exist. A slight smile appeared on his face, a smile devoid of warmth. Just remember, should humanity ever abandon the table again, those assumptions will be the first casualties. 1 month after the resolution of the Kraxan crisis, a smaller, more intimate meeting took place in a private council chamber. The Grand Arbiter sat with 5 senior council members from different species, speaking in hushed tones about the new galactic reality they faced. The intelligence reports are disturbing, said Senior Counselor Dravix, an ancient, crystalline being whose facets refracted light with each subtle movement.
Since this Prometheus protocol was revealed, human worlds have been exhibiting technological changes. Holographic images appeared showing human colonies and stations. The architecture was subtly different, more advanced, with systems and
structures unlike standard galactic designs. What had once been conventional human settlements now pulsed with energies and technologies that defied easy categorization. Their ships are changing too, added Counselor Trelvik, tentacles moving in patterns of concern. Not just their military vessels, civilian craft, scientific platforms, all being retrofitted with technologies we can barely understand. And yet they maintain they wish for peace, the Grand Arbiter noted. Ambassador Chen has resumed her position and participates fully in council proceedings. Counselor Erevan's bioluminescent patterns formed complex questions. Can we trust them? Should we? An uncomfortable silence fell over the group, each member contemplating the implications of humanity's revelation. I have lived for 7 centuries, Senior Counselor Dravix finally said. I have seen empires rise and fall, but never have I witnessed a species that deliberately hid its true capabilities for the sake of harmony, or perhaps for the perfect moment to reveal them, Counselor Grix added darkly. What would you have us do? The Grand Arbiter challenged. Treat them as enemies when they have, so far, used their power only in self-defense? The Kraxans committed a terrible crime, yes, Counselor Trelvik conceded. But the humans' response, the casual way they neutralized an entire fleet, it speaks to a mentality we may not understand. The Grand Arbiter's iridescent skin rippled, thoughtfully. Perhaps that is precisely what we must seek, understanding. Days later, a council diplomatic shuttle approached Earth, the blue-green planet, cradle of humanity, now circled by gleaming stations and shipyards that pulsed with new types of energy. The transformation was subtle but unmistakable. Technologies that had been hidden were now being integrated openly into Earth's infrastructure. In the magnificent hall of the United Earth Government in New Geneva, with windows overlooking mountains and a lake, Grand Arbiter Xylox stood with several council representatives facing a panel of human leaders, including Ambassador Chen. The contrast between the alien delegation and the seemingly ordinary humans was stark, yet the power dynamic had shifted irrevocably. We appreciate Earth's willingness to host this dialogue, Xylox began formally. The Council seeks reassurance about humanity's intentions following the revelation of your true technological capabilities. United Earth President Elena Takahashi, a dignified woman in her 60s, leaned forward in her chair. Her expression was open, but her eyes carried the weight of responsibility for a species whose mask had been removed. Our intentions remain what they have always been, Arbiter. Peaceful coexistence and mutual prosperity. The Prometheus Protocol was activated only after direct aggression against our people. Yet now that this genie, as humans say, is out of the bottle, Counselor Grix objected. How can the galaxy feel secure? You possess technologies that could destabilize the entire galactic order. Dr. Rodriguez, who had been present at the initial council meeting, stepped forward with data tablets. We anticipated these concerns. That's why we're providing technical documentation on the defensive systems we employed against the Craxan fleet. We're willing to share this technology with the Council for purely defensive applications. Shock rippled through the alien delegation.
The offer was unprecedented. Advanced technology freely given rather than jealously guarded. You would share such advanced technology? Counselor Trelvik's translator barely captured the incredulity in his voice.
With safeguards, yes, replied General Davis, who had been silent until now. We've had 2 centuries to consider the implications of our technological divergence. We never wanted an arms race. We never wanted fear. Ambassador Chen moved to stand beside her colleagues. What we want, what we have always wanted, is a galaxy where disputes are settled through dialogue, not destruction. Where the table remains the center of interspecies relations. She stepped closer to the alien delegates, her voice softening but losing none of its conviction. The Prometheus Protocol exists not because we wish to use it, but because sometimes the only way to ensure all parties remain at the table is to demonstrate what happens when someone leaves. A paradox, the Grand Arbiter observed thoughtfully. You reveal your strength precisely so you won't need to use it. Exactly. President Takahashi nodded. Humanity spent its early history locked in cycles of war and peace. We nearly destroyed ourselves more than once. When we reached the stars, we were determined not to bring those cycles with us. She walked to a window, gazing out at the serene Earth landscape, mountains and lakes that had witnessed the entirety of human evolution, now part of a galactic community far beyond what their ancestors could have imagined. We chose restraint not from weakness but from hard-won wisdom, and we choose selective revelation now for the same reason. And if another species follows the Craxan example? The Grand Arbiter asked. Attacks your worlds? General Davis's expression grew grim. The Prometheus Protocol remains active, but now everyone knows what that means. I suspect it will be a long time before anyone tests us again. 1 year later, the Galactic Council chamber itself had changed. The central platform now featured a round table where representatives sat as equals rather than addressing from a position of hierarchy. Ambassador Chen sat among them, engaged in what appeared to be genuine dialogue rather than the political posturing that had dominated council sessions for centuries. They say the most dangerous creature is not the one that bares its teeth at every opportunity, Chen reflected, watching the representatives of dozens of species working together with new understanding. In space, a new type of cooperative defense station had been established, where ships from multiple species trained together, sharing technologies that had previously been kept separate. Human instructors worked alongside alien engineers, carefully selecting aspects of humanity's hidden developments that could be shared safely. But the one that smiles hiding what it can do? Chen continued her thought as she watched human instructors teaching alien students about various technologies in the newly established Human-Alien Exchange Academy. Perhaps there's truth in that. But there's another kind of dangerous creature, the one that chooses peace when it could choose dominance, the one that sits at the table when it could flip the table over. On the site of the former Proxima colony, a new settlement rose. From the ashes of the destroyed colony, humans worked alongside aliens, including some Craxans who had come voluntarily to help with the reconstruction. Atonement through action rather than mere words. The galaxy watched in terror as humanity abandoned the table. Chen's words echoed as she looked around the Galactic Council chamber, now transformed into a place of genuine dialogue rather than political theater. But perhaps what truly terrified them was when we chose to return. In the vast expanse of space, Earth ships now moved openly with their true capabilities revealed. not as a threat but as a reminder. The message was clear. Humanity would always prefer the table, but any who forced them to leave it would face the consequences of that choice. The galaxy had been forever changed not by war, but by the revelation of what had been hidden in plain sight all along. A species that had chosen restraint when it could have chosen domination, that had masked its strength not out of deception, but out of a desire for true peace. That, perhaps, was the most terrifying revelation of all.